Hello, welcome to Premier Scene. I'm Claire Bueno, where we travel all the way to Brooklyn this evening at BFI's London Film Festival for its gala screening. You must be so excited, your first female Irish role.
Yeah, my first Irish role. This is my first time being involved in an Irish film, and yeah, it was really important for me to find the right thing, and I absolutely did. Oh look, they've got a big poster of us, that's nice.
You finally made it. And so with regards to your character, I imagine it was very exciting for you to play somebody that was so sort of conflicted, really.
Yeah, but also for it to not be overly emotional, or not even overly emotional, but overly dramatic. You know, this is not a Hollywood take on an immigrant story or a story about your relationship with home. It really struck a chord with me, and it really spoke to me because it was something that I was going through, and so it was tricky because for every other role I've had, I've been able to separate in some way myself to the character, which is what I've always wanted, what I've always been drawn to. But with this, emotionally, she was going through such a similar journey to me, that it was like somebody holding up a mirror that was an inch from your face and kind of not being able to look away, you know.
Is that difficult for you then at the end of a shooting day, that you can just sort of disperse with what you're going through and kind of switch off?
It's great when you are able to do that, and usually I am, but in a way it was kind of therapeutic. I think it was a good thing. It was I was scared going into it, but by the end it felt like you had gone through something really kind of meaningful and something that had really kind of changed you. So
no, what an enchanting story, isn't it? You must have couldn't wait to get your hands on directing this.
I was, put it mildly, keen as mustard. When I read the script, I called them immediately and said, please let me direct this film, the producers, and yeah, thankfully they said yes.
Did you stay to just the script, or did you actually go to the book as well and kind of immerse yourself in that too?
No, I did. I had read the book for pleasure, so I knew the book quite well, and I did go back to the book many times when we were working on it. But you know, Nick Hornby's screenplay was remarkably complete, and it felt like the work of somebody who read that book and knew exactly how the screenplay should be, and we just took it from there, really, with the casting and with the whole way we staged the production.
And it feels very much like a young girl's coming of age story. Is that how you saw it as well?
Yeah, yes, there's that, and there's also sort of a secret history of Ireland in a way in there, you know, that it's sort of telling the story of all the faceless thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of people who left Ireland and just got on with their lives. It's dramatising that thing that happens when somebody leaves their homeland and isn't from the country they've moved to, but equally when they go back home they're not from home anymore either. So I guess that is coming of age in itself, so yeah.
And you've got a wonderful actress in Saoirse that can bring so many more layers to the character. Did you sort of leave her to get on with it, or were you kind of quite controlling with how you wanted to her adapt?
I'm ever controlling. I directed it very carefully because it felt like the material needed that to be very specific. So, but we worked very closely and we rehearsed for a week pretty intensely before we got to shoot, so that we knew what every scene needed to be before we got near it.
And you look beautiful as well.
Oh, thank you. I was very lucky. Dawn O'Porter gave me a dress. She's very nice, and she told me to take a fish.
Well, it looks superb. It looks superb. Now you're in a period drama, so costume's always very important there as well. What was that like?
It was absolutely lovely. I don't tend to be cast in modern day ever. I think I've usually got some kind of bustle to hide my big bum. Sorry, I probably shouldn't have told you that. But it was lovely. The costumes were very, very true to the era. But it was very funny because I was obviously one of the Irish girls, not the American girls. And they would always be, yes, but a little bit more ill-fitting. You're in Ireland now. You're in Ireland now. Not one of the American girls where everything fits nice. But I had some amazing costumes. I got married and everything, so
it's amazing.
Yes.
And is there something as well, because women are far more liberated now and maybe more self-assured. What have you learnt about women of that particular period?
Well, I don't know. I feel like this film really does champion women a little bit. It's a film about it's a film about the women, to be honest. I know it's a love story and which guy might she go for, but when you watch the movie, I think you'll see maybe your mum, your sister, your friend, and the complexities of all those kind of things. And Irish women are forces to be reckoned with, and I think that that's quite well put across in this movie, and I think they always had, and we're very well spoken, and we're probably running way more houses than realised. So I don't really think maybe a lot has changed, because I think that's maybe still the case, to be honest with you. In terms of a film highlighting that, though, I think we've come a long way. I think I'm incredibly, incredibly grateful to be in a movie, you know, that really does follow you fall of a girl, which is lovely. I mean, you know, it's half the population.
And with regards to your part, what was it that you loved about her, that you needed to play her?
Nancy, for me, even from the book, like, Colm Tóibín is an incredible, incredible man. I've just had big chats with him, but he made a real person. And whenever I read Nancy, I understood everything that she was going through. I understood what it was like to be at a dance and see somebody I really fancied going, oh no. And I understood, you know what I mean? It was so alive. And Nick Hornby's adaptation was perfectly, it was, you know, it's such a compliment to the book. You know what I mean? It doesn't veer off that. So to be handed a gem like that of, you know, I just understood it and wanted to play it, really.
What a gift. This whole story comes from your fruition. What was it that inspired you?
Well, there were two things really. One was a story that my mother used to tell and her sisters about this girl they knew who'd gone to Brooklyn and that she'd got married, and when she came home she didn't tell them because they knew if she married she'd have to go back forever, you know. And just that, I just had those 2 sentences, 3 sentences, and then I went to Texas myself and I was teaching for a semester and I got lonely. I thought it'd be great, but I got lonely. And I wasn't lonely all the time, but I was lonely in the mornings, and I thought when I came back to Ireland, this is the book I wrote.
How wonderful. I mean, what you see with this character is she's clearly conflicted for a love of home, and a love of a new life as well,
It's
really.
a work of imagination in the sense I didn't have all those romances, but it's lovely giving somebody all those chances and all those sort of, you know, making her into a beautiful young girl, whereas, you know, I'm just a sort of middle-aged guy, you know, and it's lovely.
Was it interesting for you to kind of investigate like the female psyche and to try and understand how a young girl of that period would actually behave?
Yeah, I was using, my mother had 2 younger sisters and they didn't marry until a bit later, so they were around the house a lot and they were always talking about clothes, and they would arrive in wearing something new or they would have something new to say. So I was using a lot of that, and of course they were flowering in that period. They were going to dances in that period, and they would talk about that idea of standing like that at a dance, and so, you know, so it wasn't that. So I was using things from the earlier generation, but I also was aware that some of it was relevant to now. That for anyone who's ever left home, I mean, and most of us do leave home. I mean, really, that those first year away from home is a special time where you're open to all sorts of things.
Yeah, that's very, very true, actually. And with regards to optioning, or allowing your book to be optioned, what made these producers the right people for you to do?
They had just made an education. Nick had just written the screenplay, and I realised that they were really talented people and determined people, and that they would also be faithful to what I had done. And so they were absolutely the right fit for me. I really wanted them to do it. I made it clear to them from day one, this is, I want you, you know, and even though, so they were the ideal people for me.
And watching Saoirse bring your character to life, what was that like?
Well, you know, it's the first time she's done an Irish part, so it's absolutely important that Irish actresses of that calibre work with us, Irish writers, and that we create parts for them and they play the parts for us. You know, in other words, if she went on into next decade without doing an Irish part, it'd be terrible. So I'm so proud that the first thing she's done in Ireland is something I made for her.
You must be very excited to be here at the LFF.
Yeah, it's always great to be at the LFF. Great to be back here. It's fantastic. It's such a great festival.
Yeah, we launched an education here, and so it's lovely to come.
Yeah, so it's brilliant.
And Brooklyn, what was it about this story that resonated with the pair of you that you wanted to invest your time and efforts into?
Well, I read the book kind of very early, just after it came out, and it was very much my mother's story. She left Dublin in 1951, the same year that Eilish left to go to Brooklyn, but my mum went all the way to New Zealand. And she missed Ireland desperately, I think, really for a big part of her life. It was just so far away. And then I came to London from New Zealand and go home every year to New Zealand, but still feel that pull of home. And a lot of my friends as well feel very displaced, that live somewhere other than where they grew up. And the more I thought about it, I thought it's a very universal story. And a lot of people can relate to it, even if they just, like, their family live across town.
Landa, what was it about the story for you?
Well, I love the story of a young woman finding her sort of voice and her choices in life, combined with the love story, which is, I think, a really beautiful and quite fresh telling of first love and what it can mean, and when you don't quite know who you are yet, at the same time as falling for a young man.
And I was going to say, with it being a book, how difficult was it to get it optioned?
Well, it could have been difficult, because when I first read it, I was, it seemingly feels a bit internal, and is she passive? And I thought, how do you dramatize that and make that work on film?
Yeah.
And I also knew it was going to be a very expensive film to make, or, it could be, because it was going to shoot in 2 countries and periods. So there was no getting around that. And then who could you cast that could finance a movie at a certain budget level? So I thought about it for quite a long time. And then by the time I had kind of figured out some of those things in my own head and kind of seen it, a vision of it, I thought the rights will be so long gone, but I was in New York and I thought I must check on the rights. And I have a mutual friend, Colm and I share a mutual friend, and I randomly saw him that weekend and said, "Oh, do you know if Colm ever sold the rights?" And he said, "I don't know, but he's coming soon. He's a rare book dealer, so why don't we ask him?" He was teaching at Princeton and coming to buy for the Princeton Library. And we hit it off really, really well, and he had turned down a lot of people. They were in negotiations with some people for the rights, but by the end of our lunch, he was like, "If you want it, it's yours." And he said, actually, at the press in New York, he said, "Oh, because she had honest eyes." So I love that. I'm like, I'll try that. I know.
Exactly.
So it was really meant to be, because I didn't go after it straight away.
Serendipitous when you came back and said, "Oh, it looks like I got
this book I've always loved," which Amanda hadn't read at that point. But yeah, no, it was something that just kind of stayed with me and grew,
Thank you.
Sorry, no, I was just going to say, because we never just want to option things and collect a whole pile of books. We want to be able to make them, and take it all the way,
When you read the script, what was it that resonated with you?
I think it was a love story. I had never done a love story. I never played a character who was particularly nice before either. No, I guess some here and there, but not one like this. And so it was mostly about doing that, about exercising different parts of my craft that I hadn't had the opportunity to before,
And with regards to your character, an actor always likes to bring a piece of themselves to the part. But what did you bring of yourself to this one?
Oh, so the real thing that connected me to Tony is we're both 0 to 100. We fall in love, we fall in love. We're doing this, we're doing this. We can't talk ourselves out of rational things, like him showing up to her school when he knows he just can't talk himself out of it. I'm like that.
And working with Saoirse, what was that like?
Oh, well, she's just a brilliant actress. You can't take a moment off. Take a moment off, you're gonna know that you're bad, so it's basically, I like working with pressure. Sometimes that'll come from a director, sometimes that'll come from co-stars, and it's pressure in the work. So it's not something where you need to make it a thing about it. It's just, I'm here, you're here, it's time to go to work,
And with regards to this being based on a book, did you revert to the book at all?
No, I get more worried about knowing too much than knowing too little, If I know too little, the problem will be apparent. If I know too much, I don't know what idea I could be cutting off within myself. Yes. Sorry, that's when I knew.
That's okay. No problem at all. Enjoy your evening. Nice to meet you, Emory. Thank you.